It's on, bitch! Hello my friends, welcome back to Player Display. So as I mentioned before in the previous two videos, I got a pile of loot in the mail from Big Bad Toy Store, and this wraps up our trinity. Here is the NECA release retro cloth M3GAN from, well, frickin' M3GAN. This is actually a really interesting figure because there are two options that you can get from NECA. Well, technically three if you're including the life-size version of her that they made. But as for the standard action figures, there are two options. There is, firstly, an Ultimate release, and second, there is this retro cloth release, which we have right here. The interesting thing about them is, from what I've seen online, they are about the same height. So what I decided to do is opt for the soft goods one that looks more accurate, but has less accessories. I feel like it's just a better balance for me personally as a collector. I don't collect retro cloth very often, but I will if there's going to be a traffic cone issue if you make all the clothing solid plastic, as it certainly would for M3GAN, and it has with the Ultimate release. So for me, this is a better option. And more than anything, I wanted to put her next to Chucky and see what she'd look like, and also Tiffany Valentine. So this will be a really interesting figure, and I am looking forward to the sequel. I'm one of the few out there. So all that being said, let's talk about the packaging. Friendship has evolved. At the top, down here we got M3GAN, along with the actual cinematic counterpart in the corner down there from those original teaser images. Off to the side, we got M3GAN, picture of the character, picture of the figure. Off to this side, exactly the same. On the back, we have different accessories and head sculpt options, looking really cool. There are many choices over here, even though this is not an Ultimate release. And then over here, I like how you have the Model 3 generative Android. So there you go. They kind of got to cram in that acronym, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it for packaging. It's not that usual flip open presentation that we get with Ultimate figures. Again, this is retro cloth. It's kind of its own line. So I'm not too used to boxes like these, but all that being said, I got Betsy over here. Let's get this thing cracked open and we'll review the figure in full. Alright, hold the phone. Best thing about this packaging, the backdrop, is the iconic TikTok dancing scene backdrop, which I really love. I am tempted to keep this. This is actually great. Obviously, I will use it for the damn thumbnail, but as for displaying her on my shelf, this might not be a bad route to go, so keep that in mind. Neat little bonus. I'm actually able to zoom in with my camera quite a bit because this character is so much shorter than I thought that she would be, which is a good thing. That'll make her a lot better in size comparisons. Final thing I'd like to mention before we hop into the review, I found it really ominous when I was getting the box kind of centered over here for the camera. And you know how when you point your camera on your phone at somebody's face, it kind of like creates a little box around their face? Well, because you had all like the alternate faceplates and stuff like that, all of a sudden like 4 different little boxes showed up. So that's a testament to just how good NECA is, sure. But also it added a little bit of creepiness to the AI element that we got going over here. So that was special. But anyways, let's talk about this figure. First impressions, I love this thing. I think she is really excellently proportioned. Again, really good height, especially for being a retro cloth figure. That means that she will, hopefully, I imagine, line up with the Ultimate releases from NECA. And the soft goods seem really high quality. They included the undershirt, overshirt, and the bow. All the garments are there. Only area where they didn't do soft goods are the stockings, which I actually think is better. That'll give her more stability when it comes down to the feet, so I'm okay with that. And another thing I wanted to mention is the elbows. I know it's weird how we're starting off with the elbows, but I mean, nothing much can be seen over here, just something worth mentioning. Because there is sleeves here, it's hard when taking her out of the packaging to know where the joint lines up and where it crunches in. So before you start moving the arm around, might be helpful to kind of just feel around for the joint, see where it indents, and then you can articulate it. See what I mean? So I already know where the elbow is, and then as you can see, it's got quite a bit of range. So that's very nice. But of course, we'll look at that a little more at the articulation during the articulation segment. There we go. But for now, let's have a closer look at M3GAN and hope she doesn't bite our ear off. Here is her first of several facial expressions. And you know what? For this scale, it's pretty nice. Actually, a little better than I thought it would be. I think the face strikes a really good balance between looking as she did in the movie, but also having some uncanny valley to it. I mean, being that this is a toy, I mean, that helps as well. So by nature, she is supposed to look a little fake. So that comes off really well. And also, she's meant to resemble a specific human being, so NECA can kind of relax when it came to making this face sculpt. But that being said, the paint is impeccable. The little that they did here with the eyes, the eyebrows, the lips, and I think that's it. No shading, really, but then again, there was no real shading on actual M3GAN in the movie, so that works. As for the hair, now hair is kind of a in the action figure world, sometimes they do a really good job, sometimes it's a little half-baked, sometimes it's too shiny, it's too saturated. Here, I think they did it just right. You could see it's done in the blonde hair, it's got a little bit of that brown wash to it, I think, to kind of bring out the sculpt a little bit, which is really nice. It's good that it's not just one solid color, otherwise that would be kind of a bother. One thing I am noticing, though, is there is this really weird-looking seam line. You see it goes across here on the side, loops around up top, and on this side, it kind of disappears. There's the back of the hair, again, very good sculpt. Of course, the downside to this is it will restrict articulation a little bit, on the head, of course, and maybe a bit in the torso, but we'll test that out a bit later. Speaking of the torso, let's move on there. Really awesome soft goods garments here. I don't know what you'd call this dress necessarily, but the designers of M3GAN were certainly cooking when they were coming up with a good look for her. It's something that's not like a period piece garment. It's nothing too modern. It feels, I don't know, synthesized. It feels something like that an android would wear. I can't really explain it. It feels like an outfit that a toy would be wearing, which makes sense for this character because she is meant to be a purchasable product in the world of M3GAN. So that makes sense. She feels very factory, if I'm to put it that way. I don't know how else to describe it, but I like the wardrobe choice that they went with when they developed M3GAN over here. Behind the scenes, of course, not necessarily in the movie itself. But let's look at each article a little closely here. Firstly, she has her trademark bow tie thing, ribbon, I don't know what you call it exactly. It is gorgeously done. I don't know if it's actually knotted up together, then strung down, or if it's just a few components are kind of glued together to kind of imply it, but it looks great. I like how there's a shininess too. You can see we can turn it into light. It's a nice shimmery fabric, which I really do love. On the main garments, it's kind of this tan, beige something, I don't know what you'd call it, but she's also got 4 little buttons up here. It almost gives her a trench coat looking thing going on, so that's really nice. We also have 2 sleeves, which I can imagine lead to a much larger undershirt beneath the main dress, which doesn't have too much puffiness, which is a good thing. Especially for a figure this small, if you go too puffy, then it could kind of break the illusion. But, yeah, the sleeves are also really well executed. Very distinct white stripes and gray, or is it gray stripes and white? Let's debate that in the comments. And I think the one thing that I have noticed from reviews is some people have pointed out how the sleeves look a little bit wide on this figure because it's a base body underneath cloth. So, like, for example, if we pulled back the cloth here a little bit, it would appear a bit tighter, which might be a bit more accurate, but personally, now that I have this in hand, I actually don't mind it. I really like the way that it's been executed. I don't think it's too baggy. I don't think it's so tight that would hinder articulation. I think it's just the right balance. Very good. Down here on the legs, we have, once again, those white stockings, which are molded. I don't think they're painted necessarily. What is painted, I think, are the shoes down here, which I thought were black. They're not. They're actually this really nice midnight blue with some brown soles and a little bit of a gold clasp over there on the side, which is really good. The last thing that I wanted to look at, don't get creepy on me now, we're just doing this for the sake of understanding a toy and how it's created. I wanted to pull up the soft goods to see what's going on down here, just to see what kind of articulation we're working with, kind of like with Ghostface, for example. Went out of their way to give her a belly button, which I find a little odd. I'll pull that to the side a little bit. We do have a diaphragm joint in there, looking really good. I think on the Ultimate release, when you are able to get the garments out of the way, again, it's solid plastic, so it's a little more difficult, there's actually some like wire work down here, like around the waist, but not on the retro cloth one, which is interesting. So something to keep in mind. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to take M3GAN's clothes off, but still interesting decision that at least on one of these figures, they had cybernetics that were visible underneath the garments. So that was really cool. Anyways, that's it for the figure. I mean, pretty simple. I think we could just move right into accessories. I mean, she's quite small, not a whole ton to talk about, so what other playthings does this plaything have in store? While this retro cloth figure, of course, has less accessories than its ultimate counterpart, is she still comes with a fine array of accessories here, mainly in the head department. There's a lot of faces and a lot of heads. Pretty interesting choice, but makes sense for this figure and the story if you've seen the movie, so I guess we will start up there. Firstly, we have an entirely separate head sculpt. Where this is her in her more battle-damaged appearance in the third act. I mean, all these head sculpts and faces, except for one maybe, were from the third act. Here, she's got some Blood Force trauma from that other like prototype that she encountered at the very end. She got beat up. I forget what his name was called. I gotta rewatch the movie. It's been a little while. But the detail here is also impeccable. If you want more paint on your M3GAN, you might opt for this head sculpt instead of the neutral one over there. But this one is really well done. You can see that she is kind of marred off to the side. You can make out just a little bit of cybernetics, or that messed up synthetic flesh, or whatever you want to call it, peeking out from underneath, which I think is great. They have the same blue eyes, which are also very well applied and looking straight on. I feel like NECA used to have a problem with irises like going in any which way direction, but nope, on their head sculpts, that's no longer an issue. They also have dripping down mascara, which makes me wonder who would do the effort of putting mascara on M3GAN. Maybe she did that herself to make her look more appealing to her little kid counterpart. I don't know. Lips are also well done, and wow, you can actually make out there are some very small but decipherable teeth in there, which is really good. And actually, when we get really close to this, it looks like this is all printed on, which I'm fine with. Whatever looks nice, fitting that this figure was made with other machines, right? Also got some angry eyebrows, because this is her after the act is gone. She's totally snapped, and she's ready to kill basically everybody. You also got a hair sculpt, which is, of course, different from the original head sculpt, because this one is battle damaged and ripped up. You can see that it's peeled away up here from her scalp a little bit, which I think is really good. And they could have left this blank, just left it flesh tone, but you can see there's a little bit of darker shading up here to imply that there used to be some hair up there. Of course, there's no gore, because there's no blood in this character to speak of. Maybe like some hydraulic fluid, but that's about it. And yeah, it's a little bit scrabbly. You could have noticed I was moving around this one extra strand of hair kind of bunched up and flowing around, so you could kind of move that around the arm or something if you wanted to give her a bit more of an extended silhouette if you so desired. Now I guess we will try a head swap right now just to see what this is like. One noticeable difference I saw between the Ultimate release and this one is the Ultimate version is kind of like Chucky, where each head sculpt had a neck that drilled down into a wider socket, but for her she does not, which I'm happy about, because on the retro cloth version it should be easier without the extra neck sculpt, and it certainly is. And with the extra neck sculpt, like on Chucky, it's very difficult to swap the heads, but here it should not be a problem. So let's get this other head sculpt on here as well with some effort. Oh, that popped in really easily. Yeah, and it looks great. Looks fantastic. I'm not sure if her outfit got any damage during the third act of the film, so that's something I'd want to check on, like watch the movie. Was the outfit damaged? If it was, then this would be inaccurate, but still a nice profile option, so nice that we have two heads to work with. We actually have an alternate faceplate. I'm kind of going in a weird order, I apologize, but this is an alternate face for her default head. Before, she's smiling, chill, kind of just relaxing in the corner, but this one looks like maybe you failed to shut her off completely, and she recognized that, and to replace these plates, it should be simple enough, just pop the face off, kind of like the NECA ghost faces that we've been seeing recently, the NYCC one and the Inferno variant, and then you kind of need to slot the faceplate under the hair first, I think. That might be easier. And then plug it back. A little tricky. You probably need to peel the hair out of the way. There we go. And there's a very distinct click. And then she has more of that bitch face expression, which I think is really fun. Gives her more of that attitude. I think this is more akin to the face that she had during the infamous dancing sequence in the corridor. So that might be what I opt to stick with. However, if you want something that's a little bit more Terminator, you can remove this head. Again, we've done it before, and we'll do it again, because we have this alternate cybernetic endoskeleton piece, which looks, actually, this is the first time I'm really looking at it close up. It's really intricately detailed, not just sculpt-wise, but paint-wise. I'm actually digging this a lot. You can see you have like those little bits for the eye sockets. You have silver, but there's also a black wash to join it. And something I didn't notice before, you can actually make out her lower teeth, which is really gnarly. I dig that a lot. I wouldn't mind this just being her default head selection on my shelf. And you can also see it make out like these copper colors, some wash on the top, which makes sense. She was in a little bit of a skirmish towards the end of the movie. On the back, it's kind of like this soft teal. I don't know what you call it. Again, I'm going to have to hop around the accessories a little bit. Well, firstly, let's get the head on. Looks good. All right. And now we can take this screwdriver accessory right there, which is basically the Chekhov's gun of the movie, and you can plug that right into her memory core, I believe it was called, and that will just stick out to represent her fatality at the end of the film. So that's really fun to do. And also you could put that in her alternate hands if you wanted her to. I don't remember if she actually held it at any point in the movie, but again, I gotta watch it. It's been a little while. But if you want this face a little bit more familiar, more, I was going to say human, not really human, but more, I don't know, a humanoid? What would you call it? I don't know. But before she looks like this, she has this face knocked off. So let's try porting this on and see how that looks. Getting real Five Nights at Freddy's vibes from this too. That's really cool. And I like how there's like these black lips under there too. That's a really neat detail. Oh my god. I might, if they, like on eBay, they sometimes sell fodder where they just take figures apart just to sell each of the parts off for a higher price, which is really good if you're a customizer. For me, I'm tempted to see if there will be like a spare M3GAN body just floating around. Then I can create one with the default head, or one of the default heads anyways, and faces, and then one with a cybernetic head, because I'm actually liking this a lot more than I thought I would. It's that cool. And of course, her eyelids are gone, so you can make out her baby blue eyes a lot better. This one's drifting a little bit off to the side, but considering the story, I don't think that's a big deal at all. And the profile is extended, of course, with that faceplate in there. But we can also remove this one quite easily, just peel it away. And you can also put in a slightly battle-damaged variant. You can see this one's a little bit more scuffed up than this one. This is before, this is after. So many, many faces of M3GAN. And actually, you could see this eye is really droopy, and that one's a little higher up. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it works. I mean, she's getting all battle damage. She's getting punched in the face, thrown around her garage. I mean, it makes sense. It cashes out, and I like the look. So anyways, we're done finally talking about the heads and faces of M3GAN over here. Next, we'll talk about her other accessories. Talked about the screwdriver. We'll put that aside. We're good with that. She also has her big old, I don't know what you call it. It's that chopping arm for paper on one of those machines that you don't really see anymore these days because everything's digital now, but it's her perfect trademark weapon in the film. The Ultimate version also comes with an alternate variant of this, which is bloodied up. But now we have, at least for this one, just a standard silver version, which is fine by me. If you want this to have blood, you can just simply paint it on, like I did with a lot of Chucky's weaponry. And I'm sure that will slot into her hands just fine. What default hands does she have? We're about to talk about hands, so worth bringing her out again. Looks like they are default relaxed, but if you need her gripping anything, then that's what these two hands are for. Both of them are righties, interestingly enough. You have one over here, which is a little wider, and this one's a bit tighter. So I am guessing this will be for that guillotine arm, I believe it's called, for the paper. So that one holds in just fine. And then we have this alternate hand here, which is for her screwdriver. You can put that in towards the top. What is that, a Phillips head? Yeah, it's flathead, excuse me. Do a little bit of a non-chronological mashup with her, because that's the fun of toys. You can get pieces that aren't supposed to be together in the movie, but in the toy world, you can do absolutely whatever you want. So let's remove her right hand. No point in removing her left hand, because she has no alternate left hands to speak of. Oh no, okay, well, here's a little bit of a problem. It looks like this is salvageable, which is good. The hand popped away from the joint, and the axle is still intact. So Alright, let me be careful here. I should, with any luck, be able to remove this joint from here. Let me pause for a minute. That shouldn't be too difficult. Alright, let's talk. That was way, way more difficult than it should have been. I used my teeth, I used hot water, and I managed to get this peg out. So the hand, again, it can be salvageable. Nothing is totally broken. So I should be able to, with any luck, like squeeze that up in. Well, I'm not gonna do it here because I've wasted enough time already. So quick little update in post. It took me like 15 or 20 minutes, but I managed to use hot water to squeeze the joint back into the hand. But even then, you can see there's almost this warping, right? It's not fully attached. It doesn't go all the way through that axle. So yeah, even if you repair it, it's not going to be the same. I'm sure if I plug this back into the figure, it's not going to be able to port back out without leaving the joint behind. So I think this hand is off. Well, I just put it on the table. I was just going to say, I think this hand is off the table. I don't think this hand is usable once the joint is broken. That is unfortunate. So we got to talk about why that happened. Why did that hand break? It wasn't my fault. That was a swappable hand. It should have just pegged right out. And the reason why that hand broke is so simple. All we need to do is pan the camera down. See those little specks? That is paint rub. We have talked about paint rub on this channel before. When you paint the joints of a figure, it makes the joints stiff, if not frozen, and things won't move properly. In the case of this hand, it was actually moving fine, it was hinging okay, and it was swiveling okay. The issue is there was paint on this joint itself, the peg, right? And I don't know why that would be, but no matter the reason, because there was paint in there, it made whatever was in here stiff, so it would refuse to actually pull back out. And that's what caused the axle in this hand to split. The reason why I love NECA so much is because they've moved past mechanical issues like that. And this is the first time in a very long time where I've seen that happen. Like, I've seen paint flake off a little bit at the wrist joints, like on Gremlins especially, which is fine, I'm expecting that. But for a hand to be totally stuck and potentially break, that was a real bother. It could have only been worse if I plugged in this hand and this whole circular bit broke off, and then the pin was stuck in here. Then there would be absolutely no way to remove it unless I got a Dremel, and even that would be a risk. So anyways, we'll talk more about that later. For now, let's see what it's like to get the alternate hand with the blade in the socket, which I'm a little afraid to do. Well, before you do that, if you look at that, yeah, it's definitely painted over. And I think that's in there. I'm not going to push it any further in case I want to pull it back out at some point. But yeah, anyways, back on track. If you want to mix and change the different accessories that wouldn't necessarily be lore accurate and have her cybernetic head with the blade, you can do that. Focus a little bit, unlike her eyes. And then we can remove the cybernetic head and pop on the resting bitch face once again to make her more accurate to as she was in the film. And then she looks great. So aesthetically, amazing figure, but man, that wrist is a letdown. So that really sucks. Actually, I'm going to experiment with that a little bit later on. So for now, oh boy, can I remove this? Come on. Come on. All right, good. There it is. See? I'm trying to prove something. You can trust my words. Look at all that paint rub. That's bad. That is not a good practice for a toy company. That's like the only thing that NECA needs to fix. Otherwise, this figure is absolutely perfect. So, I mean, look at that. I mean, you're a screwdriver. That's so much paint chips all over the place. So, yeah. This figure, I still recommend this figure, but be careful with the hands. Give them some hot water, rub off that extra paint. They can move her any which way you want. But anyhow, all that fiasco aside, let's talk about articulation. Sticking with this head sculpt at least, you're not going to get a lot in the way of swivel or anything really. Oops, try tilting her down from the face and her face will actually come off. Minor tilt down, basically no back at all. And do we have some tilt? There's a little bit of tilt. Okay, that's good. But obviously if you went with the cybernetic head, it would probably go all over the place. In fact, let's go test that out, because the head swap out, no problem. They did not paint the dumbbell joint up there, so that's good. As for the cybernetic head, got much better tilt. Get your down, get your back, Exorcist 360, so that's all good. As for the torso, I like to just combine the torso with the waist, so that's all the same to you. It can bend this far down, and it can go back. But it doesn't seem like the diaphragm joint is giving it a lot in the way of leaning, so keep that in mind. I mean, if you just hold it there, see, it gets a touch, but not a whole lot. But it does give her that swivel, so if you want her doing the dancing, then you could do that. I definitely want to try that out. As for the arms, they have a 90 going up, go back down. Trying to be careful because of the soft goods. Swivel forward, swivel back. I think the elbows are double jointed. Let's just keep going and see how far we can get. Oh yeah, that's absolutely double joint, which is great. So really happy to see that. As for the wrists, hands, whatever, they should swivel. Test this guy out for the first time. That swivel's fine. And all the hands should hinge out and in. Again, we'll talk more about hands towards the end of this review in the wrap-up. Down on the legs, again, going back down to the undergarments here, she actually has a lot of free-moving articulation, kind of similar to the ghost faces, where there's not really a lot of sculpt to speak of, so that means you have all the articulation you want underneath the clothing. So she can kick out a really good amount, which is awesome. Better for, once again, recreating certain key scenes in the movie. Thigh swivel, kick forward as well. Really nice. Single jointed knees, which I think is okay, but they probably could have done double jointed if they really wanted to. As for the ankles, we have back hinge. There is a hinge, it's not a ball joint. Got your forward, and you also have really good rocker. So, man, I was so close to saying this was a perfect figure if it weren't for the hand thing.
Are you still doing that hand thing?
On a brighter note, the moment we've all been waiting for, size comparisons, and I am happy to say she's perfect. She lines up just right with the figures I wanted her next to. Firstly, we have the Tiffany and Chucky 2-pack, well, Bride of Chucky 2-pack, rather, and they are pretty much the same height. I mean, Tiffany has a little bit more on behalf of her crazy 80s hair going on, but next to M3GAN, they are naturally shorter, which makes sense. They're supposed to be more doll-like. She's supposed to be the height of a child. Speaking of child, the one I am able to bring in is one of the Halloween 3 Season of the Witch kids, the Silver Shamrock kids, if I may call them that. This is a skeleton one, and they are basically the exact same height, which is perfect. She's supposed to be the height of a 7-inch scale child, and they line up just right. This is perfect. So if you wanted her next to any trick-or-treaters, I know they do that whole Cooper line, which looks really cool, and I dig them a lot, but I'm not collecting them because I know if I get one, I'll have to get them all. Then she'll scale just right with any of those figures, which is fantastic. Now let's get her next to some more adult-heighted figures and see how she lines up there. We're probably going to need to pop out or up a little bit for this. Here we have a ghost face. This is, I think, the original Ultimate one that they did, but with one of the head sculpts from the Inferno variant and a mask from the New York variant. So he's a little bit of a hodgepodge to create that definitive classic ghost face, know what I mean? But lastly, of course, if you want her totally out of scale with other figures in different lines, you also have the Star Wars The Black Series Quash and Mechamuck.
Okay, yeah, hi. Welcome to Toys where we're missing a limb anonymous. Oh, just you? Oh, okay, that's fine. We can make this work. That's fine. So listen, I know what it's like to be thrown around. I know what it's like to be beat up by the people you trust most. I know what it's like to have an appendage fall off at a random given moment. I've been there. But look at me. I have a beautiful new limb to replace what I once had. And it's restored my sense of independence. I feel like I'm able to do more things and have more life experiences. Honestly, it's made me a better person. And you can get there too. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of Loctite glue and annoying repair work, but you'll get there. Why do you keep stirring up my arm like that? Okay, well, the point of these lectures was to make you feel at peace with your lack of an arm, but I guess if you just want to steal one from someone else, that's fine. I get it.
Poor little M3GAN, always having malfunctions. I was more than ready to say that this was another perfect figure from NECA's catalog. I'm not sure if I got unlucky, or if this is just a common thing between all the M3GAN figures that they've been producing, or the retro cloth line in general. I don't know what happened here, but it's that hand that really rubs me the wrong way. Now, listen, I'm not paid by anybody to make these videos. I make these videos just for fun. No one pays me to say things about these figures, say things about certain brands. Everything I say is totally authentic to what I believe, because I buy these figures out of pocket with my own hard-earned cash. And as I said before, NECA is my favorite brand. So that being said, I have no restrictions when voicing my opinions on a figure and calling out a brand when they make a mistake. This is one of those times. NECA rules. They always rule, but if they keep making mistakes like this, I will be proven wrong. I don't want to be proven wrong, though, because they do such good stuff. This figure is almost perfect. The faces, the heads, the weapons, the accessories are excellent. The soft garments, the proportions, the height compared to other NECA figures, everything is just right. But we just have this one loose member over here, which really sucks. And, you know, I'm not going to return the figure. I'm happy enough with it as is. I'm probably going to have her armed with a blade anyways. Funnily, armed with a blade arm, and it's an arm. That's a stupid joke. I'll just cut that out in editing, probably. Maybe not. Maybe I like to be humiliated. Maybe I'm a masochist. But, yeah, this figure makes me disappointed because we've been seeing paint rub issues with really early NECA. And since then, they've really moved away from that. Because I remember having, like, NECA figures that would just break because of really heavy paint apps. But since then, they've learned to tone down the level of paint that they put on their figures, and give us really excellent products. But this is a case where something was so stuck because of the paint that they did that something broke. And when something breaks, that's when a figure line needs to be called out. I mean, there's a difference between simply just disliking a figure or disliking a character. It could still be a good figure to someone else's eyes. If something's broken, that's crossing a line, and it's really unfortunate. So anyways, that really sucks to see. If you get this exact same retro cloth M3GAN figure, because I can't speak to the ultimate one because they don't plan on getting it, then obviously you want to prioritize the hand first. Go straight for hot water. Get the hands out, at least the right one. Again, you don't need to swap the left one. Get hot water, pop out the defaulted right hand, get that one out, and get that hand and the other two alternate hands in a little bit of hot water for a while. Pop them out, articulate them, get the paint to rub off, then you'll have full freedom to pop the hands on and off as you wish. So that's going to be what I'll need to do, except for the extra step of needing to reinsert the joint into this hand. And when you give extra work to one of your customers, then odds are it's a flawed product. And I hate to say that because I love literally every other thing about this figure. I'm surprised. I'm actually in shock right now. But anyways, I'm gonna have to take her to the repair table and see what I can do. But until I do that, before I do that, let's say thank you guys very much for watching this review. I'm glad that I did this. I know there's a whole bunch of reviews out there, but I'm glad I did this because it seems like I'm the only one that had a QC problem. So now everyone else can know about that. So I'm happy I could play whistleblower here. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed and you found this video useful, and my God, I hope you did, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals, and subscribe.
Yeah, hi, Mechabug here. If you want to see more from Pod Guy, then please be sure to check out the Pod Plays channel down in the description for some Let's Plays. And if you want to support the channel a bit too, you also got the Pod Patreon, which is down in the description as well. See you around, folks!
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.